Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever double edition of IntyCenter for not one, but two whips around FODEUSS. That's right. We're doing last week, we're doing this week, all in one recording, all in one take. And since I have no idea how many notes I kept last week and how long this is going to take, and I'm a cheap ass who doesn't pay for anything premium on these things, we're going to jump right into it and run through everything that I've got for notes. So starting with last week's games, we'll start with Bob Lemon. Bob Lemon tossed an absolute masterpiece, and he throws 8 innings as Jim Palmer was right there with him. Top of the ninth, though, has the only run for either team in the game. We get a leadoff double from Bag and a Half, an intentional walk to Rogers Hornsby, and then a 3-run homer from Mike Tiernan. That left Jim Palmer with a final line of 9 innings, 8 hits, and 3 runs allowed, where Lemon had 9 innings, 3 hits, and no runs allowed, and Animes take the opener 3-0. A fourth-inning 2-run homer by George Wright was all the runs the bandwagoners could get off Rube Waddell, and it looked like it might be enough as CC Sabathia took a 2-0 lead into the eighth. But a pinch hit RBI double from Dick Allen got the enhancers on the board, and a leadoff homer in the ninth from Honus Wagner tied it at 2. A one-out double from Jimmy Collins, who can see clearly now, put the enhancers ahead, and a pinch hit, bases-loaded walk drawn by Jim Edmonds made it 4-2 to the visitors. Add in a 1-2-3 ninth from Zach Britton, and that nails down a win by that very same score. Once again, Atlanta and Jolly Roger found themselves scoreless after 8 innings, and once again, Atlanta scores 3 in the top of the ninth to take the win. This time it's Steve Carlton getting absolutely no support and then loading the bases with nobody out, thanks to his team being incapable of retiring a batter on a sac bunt. He's replaced by Trevor Hoffman, who strikes out Roger Hornsby, but gives up a 2-run double to Chipper Jones and a sac fly to Ichiro. Jolly Roger does get 2 on with 1 out in the bottom of the ninth, but they can't convert either to a run. And once again, Atlanta Animes win it 3-0. None of that, however, could prepare us for the absolute carnage that was game 2 of the Gales of November at Reseda Free Fallers. Top of the seventh, and an RBI single from Justin Morneau extends the Gales' lead to 6-3. Bottom of the eighth, the best last name in baseball, Mookie Betts, gets a sac fly that brings the hosts to within 6-4. Top of the ninth, an RBI single from Dave Bancraft and a sac fly from Hank Greenberg that pushes the Gales' lead to 8-4. But a pinch hit 2-run homer from Randy Wynn was followed by a game-tying 2-run homer from Gunnar Henderson. That ties it at 8. That sends us to extra innings. In the 10th, a 2-out, 2-run homer from Cactus Gavi Kravith puts the Gales back on top. Mark Melancon needs just 6 pitches. 4 of them were used by Judd Wilson, 1 each by the other 2 batters, to get a 1-2-3 inning, and the Gales of November take it 10-8 in 10 innings. A Hank Aaron RBI single in the 8th brought Let's Play 2 to within 3-2 of Amazings. But Amazings turned to Eric Gagne in the 9th and got a 1-2-3 inning, sending Amazings to that 3-2 win. And if we told you that Tom Seaver was terrific against performance enhancers, the cliche police would probably come for us. But honestly, how else do you describe a complete game effort with just 1 run allowed on 4 hits other than terrific? Kid Nichols takes the hard luck loss as ECB wins it 3-1. Well, guys, this is not news. Dick may be fantastic, but Kershaw was even better in this case. Sorry, I'm getting odd looks for the Dick is fantastic line. Dick Redding. Dick Redding gave up a 2-run homer in the 2nd inning to Nomar Garciaparra for the only 2 runs, and these were unearned. He would surrender in the game. But Kershaw would give up only a 2-out RBI double in the 8th to Cleveland's own Big Ed Delahunty before exiting with a 2-1 lead. Jake Peavy keeps the D-bags off the board from there, and the Surfers win that one 2-1. Amazings and Bandwagoners had 8 innings where both teams put up 0 runs, and only the 5th inning where both teams scored. Top of the 5th saw more Amazings errors, 3 of them, than Bandwagoners hits, 2 of them, for 3 unearned runs against Pedro Martinez. The bottom of the inning saw Ty Cobb hit a 2-run homer for the home team's only runs in the game. But as we've said before, 3 is greater than 2, so every City bandwagoners win it on those unearned runs. Sam Streeter and Roger Clemens had dominant performances to get their teams wins as we changed dance partners. Streeter tossed 6 2/3 innings of 5-hit shutout baseball, and Babe Ruth shut out the Angels the rest of the way as the Gales cruised to a 5-0 win. Clemens made sure the enhancers got DeGrominated in a DeGrom start. Clemens tossed 7 shutout 3-hit innings with Juan Marichal shutting it down the rest of the way. Ernie Banks and Chris Bryant homered off DeGrom, and Let's Play 2 wins it 8-0. Free Fallers and New York State of Mound gave us some late drama in their series opener. A Mike Piazza leadoff homer in the 6th inning tied it at 1, and a 2-run shot from Judd Wilson later that inning put the Free Fallers up 3-1. Pete Hill scored on a wild pitch in the top of the 7th to make it 3-2. And in the 9th, a Jim O'Rourke RBI single tied it, and a bases loaded walk to Dan Bruthers put New York State of Mound ahead 4-3. But a leadoff double from Randy Wynn in the bottom of the 9th was followed by a 2-out double from, once again, the best last name in baseball, Mookie Betts. That ties it up. Gunnar Henderson then doubles. That scores Betts. That's a walk-off. That's a 5-4 win for the Free Fallers. 1-1 was the score between the bandwagoners and Amazings through 7. Top of the 8th, and an RBI triple from Barry Bonds unties it. And 2 batters later, a 3-run homer from Carl Yastrzemski gives the bandwagoners some breathing room. Rob Dibble gets the final 6 outs for the save, and the bandwagoners win it 5-2. And we'll end week 1 with one last bit of late inning drama. Gary Sheffield brought in Mike Trout with a sac fly in the bottom of the 6th to tie it at 2 between the Surfers and the D-Bags. In the top of the 8th, the D-Bags would get just 1 hit, but thanks to a hit by pitch, a walk, and an E4, they would score 2 runs and take a 4-2 lead. Lou Boudreau would double home an insurance run in the 9th, and Cliff Lee would set the Surfers out in order, and that secures a 5-2 win. But like we said, we're not done on IntyCenter this week. We got another whip around FODEUSS, and we are going to start with Let's Play 2. We've gotten used to pitching, carrying them on their surge to try to grab a playoff spot, but on this day, it was a couple of bats leading the way. Mike Schmidt goes 4 for 4. He was a triple short of the cycle. Ryan Sandberg had 2 triples. Could have shared one of those with your teammate, given him the cycle, you selfish jackass. Among his 5 hits, he was missing the homer for his cycle. Sandberg drove in 4 runs. Schmidt drove in 3. Let's Play 2 takes down the Angels 9-7. After a strong start from Tarek Skubal, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, performance enhancers took a 2-1 lead into the 8th inning against the Gales of November. But the enhancers were their own worst enemies. Kenley Jansen hit the pinch-hitting Roger Bresnahan to start the inning. Then Jimmy Collins made an error to let Gavy Kravitz get on base. A 1-out double from Josh Gibson plated them both, and a sac fly later brought Gibson home. Joe Nathan worked around a 2-out single the 9th to close it, and the Gales take this one 4-2. Jolly Roger got a solid start from Tim Hudson, who took a shutout into the 8th inning before exiting after allowing 1 run on 5 hits and 7 2/3 innings of work. A Paul Molitor RBI single and an Eddie Murray 2-run homer were all the offense Jolly Roger got, but it was enough behind the pitching of Hudson and Wilbur Wood. They get the 3-1 win. Game of Throws and Cynthia Vostenard were locked in a 4-4 tie heading into the 7th inning. But despite 0 extra base hits and a ground into double play, Throws managed a 5-run inning in the bottom of the 7th. Cynthia would get 1 back, but only 1 back, and the Kings of the North take this one 9-5. Not as dominant as Corbin Burns was on the day, but let's highlight the efforts of Clayton Kershaw and Greg Maddux. Kershaw shut down the Shaq Barons, giving up 1 run on 6 hits in 7 2/3 innings as the Surfers win 7-1. Maddux, meanwhile, scatters 7 hits in a complete game shutout of Albuquerque as Let's Play 2 wins 3-0, thanks in large part to a 2-run homer from Andre Dawson. And how about some dramatic endings on the 26th? Bandwagoners and free fallers are tied at 1 heading into the ninth. Paul Ossenmacher loads the bases with 1 out. And then the dramatic game-winning play is a bases loaded walk drawn by Mickey Mantle. But it does mean it's a 2-1 victory for every city. But let me tell you, that was nothing compared to the absolute cuckoo bananas that was Jolly Roger and the brand new ball players. A Jack Clark grand slam in the fourth put the ball players up 4-1. And then after a 28-minute rain delay, Jolly Roger got a 2-run single from Albert Pujols in the top of the eighth. A Ralph Kiner 2-run homer in the top of the ninth put Jolly Roger on top 5-4. But Lonnie Smith led off the bottom of the ninth with a homer to tie it at 5. Buster Posey got a 2-out walk, but after an intentional walk to Pudge Rodriguez, Buck Leonard couldn't bring Posey home, and we were off to extra innings. Jorge Posada delivered a 2-run single at the top of the 10th, but Jack Clark hits his second homer of the game, a leadoff homer in the bottom of the 11th, and then Alex Rodriguez hit a solo homer with 2 outs to send us to the 11th. Paul Molitor singled to open the 11th. He goes to second on a sac bunt, goes to third on a ground out. Then, after an intentional walk to Roberto Clemente, Eddie Murray singles to score Molitor. A wild pitch moved both base runners up, but Jim Rice couldn't bring him home. And we are headed to the bottom of the 11th with Jolly Roger up 8-7. Buster Posey draws a 1-out walk and gets replaced on the base paths by pinch runner Ricky Henderson. And let me tell you, that is one hell of a pinch runner to have available. But Pudge Rodriguez grounds out, Buck Leonard strikes out, and the Jolly Roger hold on for a highly dramatic 8-7 win. Now, you would have excused fans of the Gales of November for panicking when Bullet Rogan was injured. But the Gales have won 6 in a row as of the game we're talking about here. Sorry for the jinx, Gales. You do lose a couple after this one. Spoiler. At this point in time, though, they've won 6 in a row. They've won 13 of their last 14, and they have taken back first place in the league from New York State Mound. The final win over the Enhancers does come with some drama, however. They were down 2-1 in the 7th inning, but an RBI triple from Hank Greenberg ties it up, and a sac fly from Cupid Childs puts them ahead. That lead lasts for all of half an inning as Jimmy Collins gets an RBI single at the top of the 8th to tie it at 3. That tie, however, lasts just 3 pitches into the bottom of the inning, as while swinging on 2-0, Josh Gibson belts a solo homer to put the Gales back on top. Joe Nathan issues a leadoff walk to Aaron Judge, but he works around it. And as you already knew, the Gales win that one. The final score is 4-3. Let's Play 2, again, as of the time that I wrote these notes, had climbed all the way back to 500, and they do it by taking their series opener against Game of Thrones, and they do it predictably on the strength of Nolan Ryan's right arm. Ryan tossed a 2-hit shutout. He struck out 10, he walked none, he faced just 29 batters in the game. Johnny Bench hits a grand slam in the 7th inning to break it wide open, and Let's Play 2 wins it 8-0. That's a team I don't think anybody wants to see in the playoffs if they make it. Todd Helton delivered a walk-off homer for performance enhancers in their series opener against brand new ball players. Helton hit a 1-out homer in the bottom of the 10th to send the enhancers to a 6-5 win. Birmingham, they scored 5 in the top of the 7th to take a 9-7 lead on Albuquerque, but they immediately gave it back on a leadoff homer from Babe Ruth, an RBI single from Charlie Gehringer in the bottom of the 7th, and we get ourselves tied at 9. In the 9th, Jack Clements draws a pinch hit, 1-out, bases loaded walk to put the Shaq Barons back ahead, and Dave Smith retired the Angels in order in the 9th to close it out for the save. Albuquerque, by the way, wastes a 4-hit day from Babe Ruth in that one. Go home, Demon Bags and Bandwagoners, you're drunk. Jackie Robinson hit a 3-run homer in the 5th, and that's going to put the Bandwagoners up 6-2. But a 2-run double from Cleveland's own highlights a 5-run 7th for the Demon Bags to put them on top 7-6. There was 42 again in the bottom of that same inning, singling to score Ozzie Smith, and we are tied at 7. Frankie Frisch singled to score the pinch-running Tim Raines in the next half inning to put the D-Bags back on top only to have Carl Yastrzemski homer in the ninth to tie it at 8. After all that offense in such a short period of time, we'd stay 8-8 until the 13th inning when a leadoff single from Lou Gehrig and a one-out sac bunt from Ozzie Smith set the table for Yogi Berra to double and score Gehrig for the walk-off 9-8 win in 13 innings. 2 days in a row for the Enhancers, getting a walk-off winners against brand new ball players. This time it's Aaron Judge with a 2-run homer in the ninth to give them a 5-3 win. Then moving on to our last day in the final set here, we got Sithy looking to make sure they didn't get swept by New York State of Mound, and it's Grasshopper Jim Whitney doing his part to make sure that doesn't happen. He tossed 8 in the third innings, giving up 1 run on 6 hits. He also drove in a run. But the big blows for Sithy on offense for this one were 2-run homers. They got 1 each from Denny Lyons and Bill Dickey. They take this one 8-1. Albuquerque, they got a 3-run 8th inning capped by a 2-out RBI triple from Joe DiMaggio. That gives them a 4-3 lead for the Shack Barons, only to have a Fred Dunlap 2-out single tie it back up at 4 in the top of the ninth. The tie, however, was also short-lived. Dave Smith loaded the bases with 1 out on a single, a walk, and another single. And then he walks Derek Jeter to bring home the winning run. The walk-off walk makes the Angels a 5-4 winner and brings us to the end of the first ever historic double whip around FODEUSS here on a double session of IntyCenter. We'll see you next time for our normal single whip around FODEUSS.